Good afternoon. On behalf of the India International Center and CSIR-National Institute of Science, Communication and Policy Research, NISPER, I extend a warm welcome to all the distinguished speakers, guests, and participants on the occasion of Library Conclave 2022. We are at the moment being joined online by a large number of participants from across the country, as well as via our social media channels. ISC Library is organizing various events from time to time on thematic issues. And since 1974, the annual Meet for Information Professionals is being organized, inviting distinguished experts to deliver talk on topical issues. This year's theme, as you all know, is Indian Knowledge System. Indian civilization has always attached great value to knowledge. Witness its amazingly large body of intellectual texts, the world's largest collection of manuscripts, its attested tradition of texts, thinkers and schools in so many domains of knowledge. While India International Center is one of India's premier cultural institutions, widely regarded as a place where domain experts across the streams and members of civil society meet to initiate the exchange of new ideas and knowledge in the spirit of international cooperation, the center's dedication to the values of liberal humanism is best reflected in its wide-ranging landscape of activities for the promotion of art, culture, linguistic diversity, and perspectives on science and society. On the other hand, the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research's role to protect India's traditional knowledge by creating the Traditional Knowledge Digital Library alongside its research endeavors that spans many areas of traditional knowledge, such as isolating plant extracts and clinical trials for their use in various diseases, including COVID, and communicating and disseminating scientifically validated traditional knowledge widely through publication of the reputed Indian Journal of Traditional Knowledge. Thus, it's quite natural for these two organizations, IIC and CSIR-NISPER, to have joined hands and organized the event on Indian knowledge systems to discuss and deliberate on some of the facets of the topic with the objectives of endeavoring to examine the linkages between the traditional and modern day knowledge system and setting up an agenda for intensive and extensive adoption of conventional knowledge and practices. We intend to generate a document based on today's deliberations and the inputs from the participants. With this brief welcome message and interaction, I request Sri K. N. Srivastava, Director, India International Center, for his address.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. At the very outset, I would like to welcome Sri N. N. Bora, our Honorable President, India International Center, who has been very kind enough to take his time out for this important program. We also have several important speakers who will be speaking the due course in this conclave. I welcome them also. The ancient system of education was the education of the Vedas, Brahmanas, Upanishads, and Dharmashastras. We have heard the names of Aryabhatta, Padini, Katyayana, and Patanjali. Their writings and the medical treatise of Charaka and Sushruta were also some of the sources of learning. The history speaks volume about the Indian contribution to global science, particularly in the fields of forest, agriculture, biodiversity, inland waters, coastal and marine ecosystems, ecotourism, mathematics, linguistics, astronomy, metallurgy, civil engineering, medicine, to name a few. Talking about the ancient education system, I would like to say that from the time of Rig Veda onwards, our ancient education system evolved over the period and focused on the holistic development of the individual by taking care of both the inner and outer self. The system focused on moral, physical, spiritual, and intellectual aspects of life. It emphasized on values such as humility, truthfulness, discipline, self-reliance, and respect for all creations. Students were taught to appreciate the balance between human beings and nature. Teaching and learning followed the tenets of Vedas and Upanishads, fulfilling duties towards self, family, and society, thus encompassing all aspects of life. Education system focused both on learning and physical development. In other words, the emphasis was on healthy mind and healthy body. You can see that education in India has a heritage of being pragmatic, achievable, and complementary to life. The Jataka tells accounts given by Zhuangzang as well as other sources tell us that the kings and society took active interest in promoting education. As a result of many famous educational centers came up into existence. Among the most notable universities that evolved during this period were situated at Takshashila, Nalanda, Vallabhi, Vikramshila, Udanpuri, and Jagdala. These universities developed in connection with Viharas. Those at Banaras, Navadip, and Kanchi developed in connection with temples and became centers of community life in places where they were situated. Talking about textiles, India's textile export were legendary. Roman archives contain official complaints about massive cash drainages because of imports of fine Indian textiles. One of the earliest industries relocated from India to Britain was in textiles, and it became the first major success of industrial revolution, with Britain replacing India as the world's leading textile exporter. Many of the machines built by Britain used Indians' design that had been improved over long periods. Shipping and building has been one of the important areas where Indians in the past have made great success. India participated in the earliest known ocean-based trading systems. Regarding more recent centuries, it is known to scholars, but not to the general public, that Vasco da Gama's ship were captained by a Gujarati sailor, and much of the Europe's discovery of navigation was in fact an appropriation of pre-existing navigation in the Indian Ocean that had been a thriving trade system for centuries before Europeans discovered it. Some of the world's largest and most sophisticated ships were built in India and China. The compass and other navigation tools were already in use at the time. It is very well known that India's agricultural production was historically large and sustained a huge population compared to other parts of the world. Surpluses were stored for use in drought years. Traditional medicine is now a recognized and respected field. Much re-legitimizing of Indian medicine has already been done thanks to many Western labs and scientists. Many multinationals no longer denigrate traditional medicine and have in fact been trying to secure patents on Indian medicine without acknowledging the source. Traditional hydraulics, bowlis, that is spring wells, ghartas, that is water mills, and a wide range of irrigation channels. Over centuries, people developed these efficient water harvesting technologies to recharge underground aquifers. Most enticing example can be seen from Rajasthan. Before I end here, I would like to mention about a book written by Pushkar Bhatnagar, who was Commissioner of Income Tax. Unfortunately, died due to cancer a few years back. The title of the book is The Era of Lord Rama. In that book, what he has done is that he has basically gone through the Ramayana written by Maharshi Valmiki, which is in Sanskrit. In that Sanskrit Ramayana written by Valmiki ji, he has also described the planetary positions whenever any important event he was describing in the text. Like when Ram, was sent to the forest, when he comes back to the forest, when Kharusan, killing takes place, In all those important events, Valmiki has also described the planetary positions. Pushkar Bhatnagar, what he has done is that there is a software developed by NASA USA that is called planetarian software. So he has simply plotted the planetary positions as described in the Valmiki Ramayana, and through that he has been able to date all these events. Very clearly, the book brings out that when Ram goes to the forest, he was 25 years old, and when he comes back, he was 39 years. And likewise, all events he has dated. Now, these things are something which should really attract our attention, and we should focus more research so that all those ancient achievements or accomplishments in the scientific field, we should be able to present to the present world in the scientific language which the world understands today. So with these few words, I would like to end here. And once again, I welcome all the dignitaries, particularly our Honorable President, to this conclave. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I now request Professor Ranjana Agrawal, Director of CSIR-NISPER, for her comments. Over to you, Professor Agrawal.
Thank you very much. Honorable Shri N.N. Vohra-ji, President, India International Center, who has very kindly agreed to preside over today's function, and our galaxy of expert speakers, Professor Anil Sahasrabudhe, Chairman AICTE, Dr. Sudha Gopalakrishnan, Executive Director, International Research Division, India International Center, Shri Chammu Krishna Shastri-ji, Member, Mission High Level Committee of Indian Knowledge Systems, and Dr. Aditya Gupta from Department of Philosophy, Delhi University. And all the delegates who are joining us all across the country and from abroad in this today's session, Library Conclave 2022 on Indian Knowledge Systems, which is being jointly organized by IIC and CSIR-National Institute of Science, Communication and Policy Research. It is a real pleasure for CSIR-NISPER to be part of this particular event of Indian knowledge systems. We Indians are very fortunate that our nation is having a rich traditional knowledge in the area of philosophy, science, technology, arts, and many others. And the beauty of our knowledge is that it was not kept restricted to a select class. It was available to masses through classical texts, through manuscripts, even through oral communication, which passed from one generation to another generation over thousands of years. This valuable knowledge has been part of our daily practices. Basically, it made us Indian, whether it is our character, our ethics, our ethos, and also it created livelihood opportunities for several Indians for several generations. It believed in holistic nature, where nature, science, and spirituality brought synergy between human needs and nature. Our shloka, Mata Bhumi Putro Aham Prithviya, indicates that we valued nature, Mother Earth as our mother. But the irony is that though our Indian knowledge was rational, it has significance, but over the years, whether it was due to invasions or the colonial period, the faith in our Indian knowledge has eroded. This is Amrit Mahotsav year. And the first pillar which Honorable Prime Minister has given us is freedom struggle. And when we talk of freedom struggle, we talk of swa, how British killed the feeling of swa, self-pride in Indians. And they told us, and we believed it, that we are illogical, we are irrational, we are non-scientific. And we also started non-believing in our Indian knowledge system. So I think in this 75th year of independence, this is the right time to recognize the heritage as it's a part of our identity, national identity, which represent rich legacy in traditional practices. I am very glad that Government of India is taking proactive steps to build that trust again in the society about our Indian knowledge practices. AICT, I'm very glad that today we have Dr. Anil Sahasrabudhe with us, who will be speaking more on it. And the Institute of National Eminence, such as IITs, such as NITs, IIMs, all are talking about these issues, and they are taking Indian knowledge practices to the young minds. And they are trying to inculcate the old ancient heritage knowledge system and integrating it with the contemporary knowledge. And this is, I believe, will give the youth a very good exposure and bring them closer to their own culture, that will expand their intellectual horizon and enhance the confidence also. Our National Education Policy 2020 also talks about traditional knowledge, Indian knowledge systems, and how the boundaries between different disciplines should be eliminated. And I think this Indian knowledge system seminar, which we are having today, will serve a long purpose. In the end, I would like to say briefly about NISPER, National Institute of Science, Communication and Policy Research, and how we are engaged in Indian knowledge practices. The mandate of our institute is to communicate science, to popularize science, and to inculcate scientific temper. And regarding to Indian knowledge, or I say Indian traditional knowledge, our institute has always been associated with in this area, whether it was Wealth of India, which was, our whole India flora, fauna, and minerals were compiled in 11 volumes. Whether it is Indian Journal of Traditional Knowledge, which is our quaternary journal and a very well-reputed journal. Even TKDL, Traditional Knowledge Digital Library, has its genesis from NISPER only. And a very recent initiative which we have started is Swastik. This is scientifically validated societal traditional knowledge. So through this mission, we are communicating scientific knowledge, Indian traditional scientific knowledge, which has been validated by several experts, and we are communicating it with the society on social media, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Instagram, and many other platforms, so that we can create a confidence building exercise in the society about traditional knowledge. And in today's seminar, when we are having the experts and they will be sharing their views on Indian traditional knowledge, I believe that will go into the society, but also it will help our mission, our institution's mission to take traditional knowledge to newer heights. With these very few words, thank you very much. And I again I thank all the experts for sparing their time and be with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Agarwal. An Indian Administrative Service Officer of Punjab cadre, Padma Vibhushan, Shri N.N. Vohra, was the 12th Governor of Jammu and Kashmir. He has held several key positions in the Government of India, that includes Principal Secretary to the Prime Minister of India, Home Secretary, Defense Secretary, and Defense Production Secretary of India. I request the Chairman of today's program and President of India International Science Center, Shri Vohra ji, for his presidential remarks. Sir, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Munshi. Good afternoon to everyone who's on the panel and all those who are listening to today's program. I'm very happy that our India International Center and our library particularly has thought of collaborating with the CSIR and NISPER to discuss a very important subject, India's knowledge systems. Now, I don't have to overstress that years ago, with the emergence of the global economy, we are living in a knowledge world, and to become a knowledge economy, knowledge-based specialized education systems. And countries cannot remain competitive unless they keep abreast of not only their own knowledge system which they inherited, but of all the leading modern knowledge systems which have overtaken our traditional and ancient knowledge systems. And needless to say, over the centuries, since we are perhaps, if I'm not wrong, in terms of subsistence, we are among the most ancient knowledge system which is still talked about, still prevails, and is practiced in many arenas. And over the centuries, our knowledge systems in various arenas, they influence the knowledge systems in other parts of the world. And in turn, they were also influenced by other knowledge systems. It is not easy, not practical to start enumerating the long list of the knowledge systems in the area of science, technology, medicine, education, linguistics, and so on, which we inherited as part of our rich and valuable heritage, and which unfortunately have got eroded and lost over the passage of time. But one ready example, which is often given by our scientists, particularly medical scientists, is to quote the example of Ayurveda, which large practices of Ayurveda are still alive. They have been revived. They become popular. And some of these practices have been married with the modern medical systems. And the example normally cited is Ayur-genomics. That is the marriage of Ayurveda with the concept and science of genomics. Now, I will not go further into these examples, but say principally that the range of Indian knowledge systems is truly diverse. It is enormous, it is vast. And amongst the intellectual components of our inherited knowledge system, the most mentionable are the Upanishads, the Vedas, and Gita, which are timeless, which are sources of knowledge, wisdom, and great learning. Down the centuries, India had achieved great reputation, became famous for its various products, for its various skills and technologies. And even Western historians, economic historians, social historians, and mainstream historians invariably refer to the Indus Valley civilization and juxtapose what happened centuries ago with what we are so proud of today, like planned towns, planned cities, residential areas neatly laid out, roads crisscrossing these residential areas according to the need and usage. So the principle of town planning is as old as, at least known to go back to the Indus Valley civilization, if not much earlier. Then we had scientific underground drainage, we had sanitation systems. In the field of engineering and technology, the ample evidence of civil engineering skills and knowledge, of hydroengineering, of buildings being planned, multi-story buildings being planned, mind you, which are still standing after thousands of years, with the air cooling systems in the architecture. Embedded in the architecture is how to keep the building cool during hot summers. So the science of architecture itself goes back to time and is not a gift of modern European culture. Water supply systems, water harvesting systems, retaining water reservoirs for irrigation of fields, agriculture, for drinking water when there is no rain. Ponds were built, maintained, lakes were created. And as we do these excavations, we are finding all these evidences. They've been found, documented, published. And not easy to believe or not easy to accept forthwith. We had very sophisticated metal technologies, metallurgy. The invention of tools for construction engineering, for construction of buildings, temples, other premises. We had very fine tools. We have also known for invention of the needle, invention of the drill, invention of the saw for cutting. And these have been inherited by modern civilization and long forgotten that these are gifts of Indian civilization. In the larger arena of education, higher education, our knowledge systems with enormous capacity, intellectual and otherwise, in the arena of linguistics. Panini's Sanskrit grammar is the foundation of so many languages around the world, particularly it influenced German language. In the arena of mathematics, particularly advanced mathematics, we gave the world the concept of zero, of the decimal system, contributions in trigonometry and algebraic formulations. But sadly, many of these components which I'm mentioning of our ancient knowledge systems, traditional knowledge systems, were lost with the passage of time. They were lost partly because they were overtaken by modern knowledge systems, essentially those which came from the West. And when we were colonized and run by imperial masters, some of these knowledge systems were forgotten and destroyed because of the ignorance of the colonial masters. And some were consciously destroyed or put aside and forgotten because they didn't serve the imperial interests. For instance, in the arena of textiles, some of the most beautiful textiles were produced in this country thousands of years ago. And when the British came first to the East India Company, then the Crown, there is recorded evidence in modern history that our spinners, our weavers, our craftsmen, their fingers were cut so that the textile produced in England and Leeds and Birmingham, that didn't run into losses. So we need to think about all these things and to try to see what can be done to revive them, to restore them from extinction. And it is heartening that the Government of India, and particularly the CSIR and now the new initiative of NISPER, that they are taking certain steps, certain measures to recover the Indian knowledge systems, to document, codify, disseminate, and more particularly, to bridge our knowledge systems after validating them with the modern day knowledge systems. And as we just heard from the preceding speaker, that NISPER has taken various decisions. The traditional knowledge digital library, a journal of traditional information knowledge, the various things being done by the National Institute of Science, Communication and Policy Research, NISPER, and they are trying to codify, categorize, and then to communicate and widely disperse knowledge about these knowledge systems. But I only hope that today afternoon's discussion in collaboration with CSIR, and particularly NISPER, is not just a one-off event. My eminent colleague, Dr. Sasha Buddhe, is there, and Dr. Sudha Gopalakrishnan. She has, in the past years, been involved in several national initiatives to look into our hoary past and to document, to codify, and to draw meaning from the knowledge of centuries ago. Even presently now, she's engaged in a project which will hopefully commence very shortly of looking at old documents lying in various parts of the world, parchments, even old books, texts, and to see to what area of learning they belong, to categorize them, to digitalize them if possible, and then to ensure that they become a source of knowledge in various arenas, whether in the field of pure intellect and learning or in other fields of science, technology, linguistics, culture, languages. So I would suggest both to Dr. Munshi, our director, Kailash Srivastava, Dr. Sasha Buddhe, and our colleagues in the CSIR, that IIC would offer to provide close support and collaboration to CSIR and NISPER to have periodic discussions and periodic lectures to make the world at large aware and know what is being done, so that awareness also increases. And I would conclude by saying, particularly to Dr. Sasha Buddhe, to use his experience, his position in the arena of technology, to see that we get larger budgetary support to do the things which require to be done, to get a full picture of the Indian knowledge systems in every arena of functioning, and for the CSIR and its various organs to then utilize this vast source of information and canalize it for utilization, not only by us, but by the world at large. I thank the director, IIC, and our chief librarian, Dr. Munshi, for having asked me to be associated with today's function. It is an important event, and I hope that these discussions will be recorded and we will take this movement forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your erudite words. And truly, India has long and rich tradition of scientific temper, cultural ethos, and thoughts and beliefs. Thank you very much once again, sir. Now, coming to the next session, the Indian subcontinent contains a fascinating range and array of knowledge systems and practices that exist side by side even today. Exploring India's intellectual, scientific, and artistic knowledge traditions has since served to the top. The new education policy, as was mentioned, also recognizes that the knowledge of the rich diversity of India should be imbibed by first-hand learners. Reflecting on the possibilities of interlinkages and cooperation between these varying traditions as they take place today, as well as in terms of future possibilities, is indeed necessitated. To throw light on some key contours of Indian knowledge system and its relevance, I request Professor Anil D. Sahasrabudhe, who is an academician, mechanical engineer, and currently chairman, All India Council for Technical Education, and is also heading the Indian Knowledge System Division of Ministry of Education, which is located at AICT headquarters. Over to Professor Sestapati for his observations.
Namaskar. Good afternoon to all of you. In particular, Sri N.N. Voraji, President, India International Center, who has been kind enough to be amidst us today in this afternoon. Sri K.N. Srivastava, Director of IIC, Dr. Ranjana Agarwal from CSIR, Dr. Usha Munshi, and the co-panelists, Dr. Sudha Gopalkrishnan, Dr. Chammu Shastri, we have Aditya Gupta ji, all of you and the delegates for attending this particular session. I would like to have a short presentation, and through that I would like to present to you some of the activities which have been ongoing. Is the screen visible to you all?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Then I can start off with this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have this library conclave 22 by both India International Center and CSIR. And I would like to speak on Indian knowledge systems and its relevance. And the three predecessor speakers, all of them, Sri K.N. Srivastava, Ranjana Agarwal ji, and the President N.N. Vora himself, have elaborated on the need for Indian knowledge system and its continuance in the education sector so that our younger generation is made aware of all of this. In the light of this, I would like to briefly touch upon a few of the aspects which we have been doing and why it is necessary. What is, after all, Indian knowledge systems? The rich heritage and the eternal knowledge created and acquired by Indians over several millennia in the Indian subcontinent, be it in terms of Vedas, Upavedas, Upanishads, Jatakas, which the visitors also mentioned, Bhagavad Gita, all of them have rich heritage, eternal knowledge, which has been flowing several millennia, and many of that is not known to the younger generation. And that's why it is all the more important that we should be aware of what is this Indian knowledge systems all about. And the knowledge itself is in the form of two types of repositories. One is systematized knowledge, which is available in the form of manuscripts and shastras, which I mentioned, Vedas, Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita. These are all available in the written form. But whereas there is a lot of traditional knowledge, which flows from generation to generation through oral traditions, through folk songs, stories, arts and handicrafts, and traditional skills. And I've been associated with the Northeast. In the remotest corner of Nagaland or Arunachal Pradesh, there have been traditions and folk songs which reflect this rich knowledge. Same is the case with Jammu Kashmir, or same is the case with Tamil Nadu or Andhra Pradesh or Karnataka. And therefore, you go to any location in India, we have a rich reservoir of knowledge, and we are all not having awareness of that existence of the knowledge itself. And that's where Indian knowledge system needs to be taken up. And that is why we need to study it. So how do we study it? Is there a different way, Indian way? Is it worth studying that our ancestors did and think? Is it relevant today, or it was only in the past that we had a glorious thing and now it is not important? Or is it important today for our students? And this is where this particular shloka reflects the ethos of that. Puranam ityeva na sadhu sarvam, na chapi kavyam, navamitya vadyam, santaha parikshanyatarat bhajante, mudaha parapratyayane buddhi. That means all poems are not good because they are old. All poems are not bad because they are new. Good and wise people examine both and decide whether a poem is good or bad. And only a fool will blindly be led and follow what others say. This is a beautiful shloka, which is a reflection of making ourselves self-introspective in order to understand what is right, wrong, what is useful, and therefore we need to move ahead with that. We have earlier speakers have already mentioned, it is a reiteration. India's rich history of science and technology.
When it comes to the next slide, which is basically on our other issues like art forms, languages like Tamil, Sanskrit, Pali, grammar, which we reflected, political science, economics, philosophy, psychology, sociology, music, dance forms, paintings. We are all aware of all of that. But many times we think the science and technology has all come from the West. Maybe some of this history or economics was here, but not science and technology. But please remember, the very basis of science emanated from India. Whether it is astronomy, whether it is biological science, chemistry, mathematics, physics, these are all sciences. And on the other side, the applied science or the technology, be it architecture, Ayurveda, civil engineering, town planning, metallurgy and material science, surgery, yoga, has all come from India, went to the West. They have further developed it. And these are some of the grand proofs that have been found during the excavation, whether it is Mohenjo-daro, Indus Valley civilization, Lothal, or Dholavira, which was recently excavated. A lot of evidences have now been found. As far as the education is concerned, the first universities of the world were established here, Takshila in 600 BC, which flourished up to 500 AD. And there were as many as hundreds of subjects, but 68 major subjects in which the education was being imparted, and students from all over the world, China, Babylon, Syria, Greece, they used to come. The next later part is the Platonic Academy in Athens, Greece, 387 BC. So we are about 250 years ahead of them. This is formal, but informally, Gurukula system existed from time immemorial. Nalanda University, again, 500 CE to 1200 CE, with 300 lecture halls, laboratories, 10,000 students, 2,000 professors, a teacher-student ratio of 1:5, which is not even existing today in any of the best universities of the world. We had Susruta, who had the surgery done long ago in 6th century BC. We also refer to the mining as well as the metallurgy aspect, the Ashoka pillar near Delhi, alloy steel for swords. Jharkhand people today also do it. In Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, zinc mining, which we knew 400 BC, mathematics, which is the queen of science, was developed, not only zero, but many other things like value of pi, the geometry, the binomial theorem, the trigonometry, the temple architecture, water resources, housing, which all we talk about, applied areas. Without knowing mathematics and science, one could not have done it. And therefore, we had extreme achievements that time, but it went on till even as late as 19th century. We have J.C. Bose, Srinivas Ramanujan, Sri V. Raman, S.N. Bose. They all had frugal innovations based on ancient wisdom. So our even philosophy, which we narrate to the whole world, whether it is in the United Nations or everywhere, is about, it is self-development as well as the development of the whole world. The very philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and Sarve Janaha Sukhino Bhavantu. This is an Indian way of sustainability which strives for the welfare of all the people. And therefore, development models of the West, as well as many other places, have proved to be not fruitful. And therefore, if we have to really reach out to the whole world, become Vishwaguru, the knowledge economy, knowledge power is important. And therefore, it is very, very essential that Indian way of thinking, Indian knowledge system has to be taught to our younger generation so that we understand that. And many times we assume that it is not scientific. Please understand, even the science itself, the scientific method itself, which is objective, but the scientific principles are subjective. None of the innovations, research would have happened without having presupposition. That's called PEL model, with some evidence, logic, and then objectively we investigate and find out. What can the unique contribution of IKS? You have a comparison of two systems of medicine itself. People are gravitating to Ayurveda because of the holistic nature of that. The Tridosha concept, the 5 elements of the universe which we talk about, whereas in allopathy, it is a reductionist approach. You try to attack the problem at the location where it is happening, but we don't integrate and find out a systemic approach which we talk about in all systems today, is necessary even in human body. As far as the food is concerned, the full food itself, we divide in Western medicine or Western dietitians in terms of proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, vitamins, minerals, whereas in IKS, we talk about rasas, the sattvikata, rajasikata, tamasikata. I think these are very, very fundamental and important issues which we must understand in terms of even the new methods, in terms of nanomaterials which are useful for medicine, for understanding science. We have scientific methods developed from the West. We must make use of them. Maybe scanning electron microscope, traveling electron microscope, XRD, EDAX, AAS, that atomic spectroscopy, optical spectroscopy. But at the same time, the ancient methods of Varna, Nishatvam, and so many of them which are listed here, which will create nanoparticles which are going to be useful by using several similar policies and or the things which we do in terms of heating and cooling, burning and heating. All of that is important in creating the bhasmas. In terms of agriculture, right from Rigveda, there have been shlokas which tell about how do we create agricultural philosophy, and this is a shloka which gives very clear indication of how food is very important. We should not waste food, make efforts to produce a lot of food so that we can serve others. Historic development of agriculture is existing for about not less than 10,000 years. And all variety of crops, the circulation of crops, the rotation of the crops is all described very subtly in terms of different types of crops which have to cycle so that soil's productivity remains intact. I think that's very, very fundamental and important. Today we are talking about sustainable agriculture, but sustainable agriculture existed from Saraswati Sindhu civilization itself. And there are lots of treatises written by several rishis, and these are all listed up to as late as 17th century. Historical development of agriculture has been ongoing. And today we again have turned a full cycle and we again talk about the same issues which are relevant, not now, but for 10,000 years. And that's why we must also be aware of water resources, predictions of rainfall, climate change which is happening, how 5 elements, the earth, the biosphere and the soil, how they interact with each other. This was expressed very clearly in the Shrutis, which is important for all of us. The forecasting, which I have said, short term to long term, was also being practiced, was known to Rishi Kashyapa, Parashara, Gautama, etc. So in terms of animal husbandry also, we had several innovations which were done in terms of both cows and bullocks. Protection of animals was given significance and importance. And therefore, in the light of all of this, what today world is talking about, ecosystem, habitat, sustainable development goals, has its basic tenets emanating from Bharatiya values or Indian values. And that's why it is necessary that we must train our students in terms of water harvesting, which has been there for several thousand of years. And that is where Ministry of Education has created a center called Indian Knowledge Systems. It is existing now in AICT, and there have been a lot of references in the national education policy about IKS in different chapters, how to promote Indian knowledge systems, Indian languages, art and culture. And that is the reason why this particular talk will reflect upon how vision of interdisciplinary research, making the old knowledge relevant to today, continuing the research and moving forward for societal applications and the benefit of mankind. That is the aim with which IKS division of the ministry is established. We want to enable young researchers for further study and research in Indian knowledge system, develop solutions to contemporary problems, disseminate rational basis of Indian culture. I think this is what we have been trying to do. There is a website, iksindia.org. All this information is available. More and more vetted, certified information will be brought here, and then we'll be supporting writing of the textbooks, creating of the courses, and we will try to make our nation proud of not only our rich heritage, but how it can be made useful for ourselves and the world at large. Namaskar, dhanyavad.
Truly, recreating such a knowledge ecosystem is pivotal. Thank you very much, Professor Sesubuddi, for cruising us through such wonderful knowledge landscape. The social organization of knowledge is a fascinating aspect, and there is wide and extensive knowledge both at the level of classical texts and the folk traditions, commonly referred to as Shastra and Lok Parampara. There is a commonality of technical terms and approaches in both the streams, and they represent it as if they were two extreme ends of what is really a continuum expressing the same cosmovision. Though there is every reason to believe that on the ground today, folk traditions are widespread in various walks of life and are vibrant, yet concerted actions are needed to contextualize such knowledge systems. I invite Dr. Sudha Gopalakrishnan for her observation, contextualizing Indian knowledge systems, concepts, practices, and transformation. Dr. Gopalakrishnan is currently Executive Director, International Research Division at IIC. She was founder director of National Mission for Manuscripts and also steers Sahapedia, the online encyclopedia of Indian arts and culture. Over to you, Dr. Gopalakrishnan.
Thank you. Respected Sri N.N. Vora, President IIC, Mr. K.N. Srivastav, Director IIC, Dr. Usha Munshi, and all the esteemed participants of today's seminar on Indian knowledge systems. It is really a privilege to be part of this very interesting webinar. Though only a webinar, I wish it had been a physical meet. It would have been much rich, but then Usha promises that we are going to have a much larger, and now that these discussions have happened, I mean, so inspirational discussions have happened and presentations happened already. I think there is a lot of future scope for our institutions to come together, as Mr. Vora already has mentioned, and also as Dr. Sahasrabudhe and all of everybody has mentioned. So in that sense, it is a pleasure to be part of a discussion on Indian knowledge systems. This concept and idea has been preoccupying my mind for a long time, and dabbling in different disciplines, right from like it was mentioned, this manuscripts, which is the vast textual heritage of India, and also some ways associated with UNESCO on intangible systems of knowledge. And so what it is, but when you talk about Indian knowledge systems as a discipline, I was a little confused. How do you integrate the two, the system and knowledge together? So it also happened that in a very recent discussion today in the last week in the IIC library, this topic came up of what is knowledge system? So that I think Kushaji took as a cue, and then I'm so happy that we are now going to have this kind of a vibrant discussion around it. So after that brief chat, I was also, like I said, was left in doubt. What do we mean when we talk about knowledge system? Do we mean that knowledge is systematized, as Dr. Sahasrabudhe said very eloquently and rightly, or is it about systems of knowledge? I feel perhaps that the truth is somewhere in between, and it could be on both sides. I looked up some definitions on the web and found that it is a broad term with multiple meanings used in multiple domains, from local traditional knowledge, sociology, and to computer programming. They also say that it is knowledge-based system, TBK. So with a specific meaning to the context. So as per context and as per the domain, maybe the meanings change, but definitely the idea remains the same, that it is Indian knowledge, it is knowledge systems. So in the discussion that happened, a rich field is thrown open to us today. Enjoyed the shloka, especially of Dr. Sahasrabudhe about the Puranam Ityedina Sadhu Sarvam from the Malavikagnimutram of Kalidasa. And many, and also Mr. Vora also laid out a very large field and extent of our knowledge systems. And also some examples were given in by Dr. Sahasrabudhe. Putting all this together, I think I would like to understand this idea of knowledge systems as a body of knowledge, emphasizing the word body, around the world in which we live, and the systematic and accumulative processes of perpetration and transmission of that knowledge. The second point I'd like to highlight is that it is not something created as a single entity. It refers to a process, a network, or a collective accumulation of knowledge about a particular discipline, skill, or experience, and understanding across time, place, and community. These systems of knowledge that accrue and get disseminated by representation, reinterpretation, and revitalization become the bedrock of a shared heritage in the region and beyond. In this sense, this idea of a knowledge system is an inclusive term which can be ascribed to the written, oral, performative knowledge across traditional and even perhaps modern knowledge. Rather than a single branch or discipline, it is to be understood as a system that influences each other and is interconnected between knowledges that bear on each other and are influenced by each other. In computational language, knowledge system or knowledge-based system that I mentioned before is a technical term which helps understand and develop computational models of human intelligence right from data processing to artificial intelligence. We are all aware that when we speak of Indian knowledge systems, we think of traditional knowledge, rightly so, about the rich resource of knowledge that lay scattered across several fields of study, ranging from ancient texts and also its very rich oral traditions. Such fine examples were shown in the presentation. It was very wonderful to get to know about what the traditional knowledge system aspect is doing in the CSIR. It is very inspirational. The textual corpus of India covers a large field, including systems of science, philosophy, arts, and medicinal knowledge. And for centuries, this knowledge system was passed on from generation to generation through an unbroken oral tradition. Gradually, it came to be written in manuscript form in different materials such as stones, copper plates, birch bark, palm leaf, parchment, and paper. A tradition that saw Vidya as the only real dhana, Vidya dhanam sarvadhanat pradhanam, can now legitimately take some pride in the fact that the world has come to recognize knowledge as the key resource for change. As people speak today of a knowledge economy, knowledge as capital, or more appropriately, a knowledge society, which actually Mr. Vora just mentioned, and it was a wonderful point to make there. I would like to cite a story. A story goes that the Maharaja of Mysore was on a visit to Germany in the last century, and when introduced as the Maharaja of Mysore, he was surprised to learn that some in the audience knew of Mysore, not from his kingdom, but from somebody called Shyama Shastri of Mysore. On return, the Maharaja made inquiries. He himself did not know who was this Shyama Shastri, to find that there was indeed a Shyama Shastri, a scholar who was working quietly on a manuscript called Artha Shastra. It was through this momentous discovery of this text that Kautilya's Artha Shastra, the foundation for India's thoughts on economic theory and practice, became known to the world. That original manuscript of Artha Shastra still survives in the Oriental Research Institute in Mysore, in the University of Mysore, written in palm leaf with 168 folios still surviving. It was published by Shyama Shastri in 1909. However, I have to say that this manuscript written in the Grantha script is today in a somewhat fragile condition. So this is not the experience of one manuscript alone. We have tens and thousands and lakhs of manuscripts which are housed in different different repositories like libraries or archives or universities or religious institutions or even with private people, which of course the National Manuscript Mission is in the process of conserving, putting a database together. But I think it cannot be left to one institution and one aspect. I think it is a common responsibility and a collective responsibility of everybody to restore that knowledge and be proud, and not only just be proud, but take from it and how to extend that knowledge. I think that is a very important task that all of us have to do together. So, so coming to something else, some other aspect of it. I mean, oral traditions, for example, communities living in close connection with nature, such as the tribal, peasant, pastoral, nomadic communities, have their own cosmology, folklore, worldview, and systems of knowledge developed by closely observing nature and preserving that knowledge through an oral tradition from mouth to mouth. On close observation, one finds significant correlation between these two traditions, the textual and oral, and actually are not in opposition, but are complementary to each other. Often these two traditions are seen to interact, respond, and support each other because they, after all, emerge from the large stock of the shared wealth of a collective imagination. Being close to nature, sometimes the local communities show a greater awareness with regard to such areas of ecological organization, conservation of natural resources, and human-nature relationship. For example, speculations on nature leads to knowledge on agriculture, then going up to the climatic cycles, astrology, related field of astronomy, then it goes on then to the scientific system. So it is like this kind of a network or ecosystem that I'd like to say that knowledge system in that knowledge systems of knowledge that talk to each other, that integrate with each other. Skills relating to indigenous knowledge systems such as architecture, water harvesting system, or handlooms, which are all mentioned today, for example, in a way are in a state of deterioration. To make an appraisal of what India can do in terms of reinterpreting its traditional knowledge, discovering innovative ways of engaging with it is like engaging with the history of our own thought. These ideas are contained in our ancient knowledge systems can respond to the challenges of our times if interpreted and seamlessly studied. Then it becomes a vertical transference conducive to innovation, and also a horizontal transference between disciplines, which will be very innovative in creation. So this is the major aspect that I wanted to talk about, that these are not in opposition. One, these are not in opposition. Second, they talk to each other. And also the methods of inquiry, questioning, and debate intrinsic to traditional from ancient formulations on science, on different branches of knowledge, were primarily known as sutra, like theoretical aphorisms, in that form to be explained, evaluated, and expanded by later writers. A great tradition evolved in India by scholars writing commentaries and interpretations of already existing texts, which explained, interpreted, and developed earlier thought. For example, the Bhashya, Vartika, Tika traditions, which explicated and enlarged the idea through contesting and interpretative positions, moved in perhaps in different schools of thought. Some may be from the Vishishtadvaita, some may be from the Nyaya system, but they all interpret the same sutra in their own ways and make their own commentaries, upon which sub-commentaries are made. So it is unimaginable the kind of textual, the kind of finesse they go into and the kind of argumentative argumentative, finesse that they go into. This is the way corpuses, textual corpuses, and systems of knowledge are made. So through an imaginative application of this strategy in education, an innovative pedagogy may be evolved by opening up important texts to students for critical examination and interpretation through collaboration, contestation, and co-creation. So coming to, these are some of the points, but there are quite a lot of other things that I made, which I would like to just submit to Shaji for as a paper that she was wanting to make. But what I would like to say is that that I'd like to also remind that Indian, when we talk of Indian, we don't really mean India as a political border, but India as an idea and an idea which has not been confined only to this area, but has gone abroad and has taken its own roots there, developed in their own ways, and perhaps come back to us. So this interaction is something that I think we have to keep very, very, very firmly in mind when we talk about Indian knowledge systems. I would rather think that it would be a better thing to say of Indic, which has a more broader application than Indian. It's something to think and something for all of us to, and I'd like to leave this at that. But I feel that the effort that integrate initiatives from different sectors of society is therefore a logical, radical, and urgent response to a very, very contemporary challenge of revitalizing the knowledge traditions of India and the Indic world. Thank you.
Yes, integration of diverse and discrete knowledge sets is likely to generate new knowledge, and that's very true. Thank you very much, Sudhaji, for sharing your thoughts with us. Again, the new education policy has also focused on classical languages and highlighted the Sanskrit that will be mainstreamed with strong offerings in school, including as one of the language options in the 3-language formula, as well as in higher education. Besides expanding the horizon of higher education institutes and universities, studying all classical languages and literature, the emphasis is also laid regarding resolute efforts to collect, preserve, translate, and study the tens of thousands of manuscripts that have not yet received their due attention. We are indeed happy to have with us Padma Shri Professor Chamu Krishna Shastri, an educationist who has been working for the revival of the Sanskrit language. He is trustee and secretary of Sanskrit Promotion Foundation. Professor Shastri is also member Mission High Level Committee of Indian Knowledge Systems. I invite Professor Shastri for his observations on Indian knowledge systems and Indian languages. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ushaji. Respected Oraji, respected Shivastavji, Anil Sahasrabuddheji, Sudha Gopalakrishnan-ji, with whom I had an opportunity to work with in National Manuscript Mission long back.
Yes.
So, thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. I have two responsibilities right now. One is member of this high-powered committee for Indian language systems. Other one is as chairman, high-powered committee for promotion of Indian languages, constituted by Ministry of Education. So now here I am not as an advocate of Indian knowledge systems, but more as an advocate of Indian languages with relation to Indian knowledge systems. Because without Indian languages, there is no Indian knowledge systems. Whatever books, articles, research papers are written on Indian knowledge systems are in English, and the utmost available resources online, etc., they are all secondary resources. Primary sources are in Indian languages. So Sanskrit, Tamil, Pali, Prakrit, and also all other Indian languages. So 80% of the repository is in Sanskrit. The basis for this data is National Manuscript Mission. If we take the manuscript repository, 80% of the manuscripts are in Sanskritam, and the rest of the repository are in other Indian languages. So that is why I said 80% of the knowledge system textual, I am talking about the textual repository, is in Sanskritam. But if you take arts, culture, folk, oral tradition, then it may be Indian languages have the higher number. So when the research knowledge retrieval part of the work to be done is concerned, the difficulty is Sanskrit scholars or language scholars are not acquainted with the contemporary knowledge systems, and the present contemporary knowledge scholars are not good in Sanskritam or Tamil or Pali or Prakritam. There is a big gap. So that is one of the roadblocks for the research or knowledge retrieval. Of course, we have to have three aspects of our work: knowledge retrieval, knowledge dissemination, and also knowledge creation. Knowledge creation is in the distant, maybe the future work. अभी तो हमें नॉलेज रिट्रीवल करना है, फिर उसका प्रचार करना है. अगर ये ज्यादा पैमाने पे करना है तो जो भारतीय भाषाविद हैं और आधुनिक ज्ञानवान लोग हैं, इन दोनों के बीच संवाद ज्यादा होना चाहिए. और ये जो आधुनिक विद्याएं हैं, मॉडर्न रिसर्च पेपर्स, करंट टॉपिक्स, करंट डेवलपमेंट्स, करंट सब्जेक्ट्स ऑफ एनी ब्रांच ऑफ नॉलेज, ये सब भारतीय भाषाओं में आना चाहिए. आजकल रिसर्च आर्टिकल्स भी साइंस टेक्नोलॉजी या ज्यादातर रिसर्च आर्टिकल्स अंग्रेजी भाषाओं में, ज्यादातर रिसर्च जर्नल्स अंग्रेजी भाषाओं में हैं. रेप्यूटेड रिसर्च जर्नल्स भारतीय भाषाओं में भी होना चाहिए. और जितना जो नॉलेज अंग्रेजी में उपलब्ध है वो सभी भारतीय भाषाओं में भी अगर उपलब्ध होगा, तब ये जो भारतीय भाषा विद्वान लोग हैं भारतीय भाषाओं में, वो आधुनिक विद्या के साथ कनेक्टेड हो सकते हैं. तब ज्यादा ये शोध कार्य हो सकता है, नॉलेज रिट्रीवल हो सकता है. तो इसके लिए कुछ विशेष उपक्रम लेना चाहिए. अगर हम इंडियन नॉलेज सिस्टम्स को समझना चाहेंगे, उसको प्राप्त करना चाहेंगे, फिर से इसको प्रकाशित करना चाहेंगे, तो हमें भारतीय भाषाओं के लिए भी काम करना होगा. उसके लिए भी कुछ योजनाएं बनाने होंगे. और विशेषतः देश में भी भारतीय भाषाओं के लिए एक अनुकूल वातावरण बनना चाहिए. भारतीय भाषाओं के पक्ष में नैरेटिव निर्माण करना चाहिए. और सभी ज्ञान के, आज की ज्ञान की शाखाएं जितने भी हैं, सभी ज्ञान शाखाओं के सभी पुस्तकों के, संदर्भ ग्रंथों का, टेक्स्ट बुक्स का, या कम से कम इंट्रोडक्टरी बुक्स सारे भारतीय भाषाओं में उपलब्ध होंगे. तब जाके हम भारतीय भाषा में भी जो ज्ञान ग्रंथ उपलब्ध हैं, जो सोर्सेस हैं, उसके प्रति, मूल के प्रति हम जा सकते हैं। तो इसलिए we have to have more programs for Indian languages also. That is one of the aspects. Second thing I just wanted to highlight here is, जो आज भारत की जो एकता है, भारत की जो एकात्मता है, समरसता है, सामाजिक समरसता है, देश की एकता है, इसका मूल कारण क्या है? देखिए, एक तो भारतीय भाषाएं हैं, दूसरा कारण है भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा, दैट इज इंडियन नॉलेज सिस्टम and Indian languages. These are the main reasons for the unity and harmony of India. सभी भारतीय भाषाओं में ये भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा समान रूप से है, और शब्दावली भी समान है, विचार भी समान है। अलग अलग भाषा में अलग अलग रीति से उसकी अभिव्यक्ति हुई है, लेकिन मूल विचार, मूल शब्दावली, ये सब समान होने के कारण इससे भारत की एकता आज भी है। ये अंडरलाइंग यूनिटी एंड हार्मनी इज सोनली बिकॉज ऑफ दीज टू थिंग्स। तो आगे भी ये भारत का आत्मा का जागरण करने के लिए, भारत को फिर से जोड़ के रखने के लिए, आगे भी ऐसे जोड़ के रखने के लिए, एकता के लिए, एकात्मता के लिए हम भारतीय भाषाओं के बारे में ज्यादा सोचना चाहिए और भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा के बारे में। हम डाइवर्सिटी का बात करते हैं, लेकिन डाइवर्सिटी के साथ साथ यूनिटी इन डाइवर्सिटी का भी उल्लेख करना चाहिए। Diversity without unity will end up with chaos and destruction. मैं बचपन से अनेकता में एकता इसका पाठ पढ़ा हूं, केवल विविधता का बात नहीं सुना हूं। तो आज हमें ये विविधता में एकता को लाने के लिए ये समान शब्दावली, संस्कृत शब्दावली, भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा और भारतीय भाषाओं में और भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा में अंतर्निहित जीवन दर्शन जो है, उस जीवन दर्शन को ज्यादा प्रकाश में लाना चाहिए। भाषा, संस्कृत भाषा हो, तमिल भाषा हो, पाली भाषा हो, प्राकृत भाषा हो, ये केवल भाषाएं नहीं, ये भारतीय दर्शन का वाहक हैं और भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा का फाउंटेन है, मूल स्रोत है। इसलिए हमें भारतीय भाषा और भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा दोनों को साथ साथ हमें इसके अध्ययन, अध्यापन, प्रचार करना चाहिए। भारतीय भाषा और भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा ये दोनों अलग अलग नहीं सोचना चाहिए, दोनों एक साथ सोचना चाहिए, एक साथ इसके बारे में योजना बननी चाहिए। केवल अंग्रेजी में इंडियन नॉलेज सिस्टम्स का प्रचार ना हो, उसमें भी होना चाहिए, नहीं ये ऐसा मेरा मत नहीं है। अंग्रेजी भी भारत की भाषा है, मैं मानता हूं, लेकिन अंग्रेजी और अंग्रेजी को जितना महत्व दे रहे हैं, समान महत्व सभी भारतीय भाषाओं को भी दे, प्राचीन भाषाओं को भी दे, आज की भाषाओं को भी दे, और प्राचीन भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा हो, आधुनिक ज्ञान विषय हो, सभी को भी सभी भारतीय भाषाओं में प्रचार करे, इतना निवेदन करके मैं मेरा वचन वाणी को विराम देता हूं। जो अवसर दिए इसलिए आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
The richness and strength of oral traditions, how it is constituted, stored, and maintained, is important to know. because knowledge has evolved with the evolution of humankind, and depending on their ecological context, knowledge and cultures have evolved, and the language plays a pivotal role. Thank you very much, Professor Shastri, for your observations on the language aspect. Now, among the diverse knowledge systems, India's various philosophical and belief systems have been an integral part of our cultural, spiritual, and philosophical ethos. Various schools of thought, such as the classical systems of Vedanta, Nyaya, Samkhya, and Mimamsa, Vaisesika, and Yoga, and various other schools of thought systems have been in existence. To have observations on some of these schools of thought, I invite Dr. Aditya Kumar Gupta, Faculty Department of Philosophy, University of Delhi, who specializes in Vedanta and contemporary Indian philosophy and has extensively written on these aspects. Dr. Gupta is going to speak on deeper questions of life and Upanishadic approach. Over to you, Dr. Gupta.
Thank you, Madam. Respected Shri N.N. Bohra ji, Professor Chambu Krishna Shastri ji, Dr. Sudha Gopal Krishnan ji, Dr. Usha Munshi ji, Professor Anjana ji, and other eminent thinkers and panelists. First of all, I extend my thankfulness for this invitation. Today, I would like to speak certain things about deeper questions of life and the approach of Upanishads. Basically, as far as human knowledge is concerned, we find that it has two dimensions, external dimension and internal dimension. As far as knowledge of external world is concerned, including human body, human emotions and everything, they come under external dimension. We try to look at the world or our body or others' body from that dimension only. And it has particular structure. That structure, philosophically speaking, includes object-subject duality. That structure includes, a type of direction from mind, involvement of sense organs, and conditions of knowledge. There are, because human sense organs are very much limited. For example, human ears can hear only from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz, right? So we have certain limitations, we have certain area. But this structure, when it comes to internal world, actually this structure does not work. When it comes to within, when it comes to deeper questions of life, this structure does not work. And deeper questions, which are very must to solve, deeper questions related to what is love, what is life, what is success, what is happiness, what is peace, what is consciousness, what is birth, what is death. Can we think that without solving these questions, we can live our life wonderfully? In fact, we live our life on the basis of these various questions. Madam, some voice is coming from that side. Either any speaker is on or some video is going on, I think.
ऐसे कांड के बारे में सब कुछ पता चलता है तो बस दरबार हॉल में यस बहुत सारे लोग पुलिस स्टेशन और कोर्ट जाने से
some I request
लोग और गुंडों से भी करवाते हैं लेकिन वहीं पे जाकर न्याय की गुहार लगाते हैं उनकी डिटेल्स पर केस
radio is on, I think.
बट
Sandeep, please mute others.
इसे 2 साल पहले शुरू किया था
Please mute others.
गुड अगला दरबार कहाँ होगा पता लगाओ
Please go ahead. Oh, you are also muted. Please unmute.
Okay, thank you. So these deeper questions, when it comes to external structure of knowledge, these deeper questions cannot be understood. With this structure, subject, object, sense organs, and mind direction, we cannot understand deeper questions of life. What is love? What is success? What is happiness? What is peace? What is consciousness? How do we know? And who is a knower? We know through knower, we know the known, right? But through known, we do not know the knower in this external structure. So we have so many issues which cannot be understood by this external structure, by this method of without. So we find that this external system has certain problems. And these problems I propose can be solved from Upanishadic approach, right? So the first problem in this external structure is that it basically, the role of consciousness. Generally in Western we find Western knowledge system, we find that consciousness is identified with reasoning, means there is no two different substances. The substance of thinking and substance of consciousness, both are not different. So whenever, human being is there, so reasoning has been considered as the master. There was one philosopher, Descartes, who said, I think, therefore I am. So that master was given charge to control human being. Whereas in Indian system, it is not the case. And because of that commingling, because of that, reasoning has been made the master of emotions and of human being, we find many psychological problems are there among youngsters. Psychological disturbances are there, depression is there, because that commingling is there, identification is there, because the master is the real problematic here. And other problem we find in Indian system is basically that here within is ignored, that external system within is ignored. Excessive emphasis on without is there. There was a one 20th century biologist. He and that biologist name was Cardin, T.D. Cardin. He said that modern physics believes in the fact that nothing can be known without structure, without structure. But this method does not work even in plants. When it comes to human being, this totally breaks up. There is no chance that with this method of without you can know human beings. So he says it is impossible to deny that deep within ourselves. So basically that reasoning is taken in a very narrow sense in Western knowledge system. In 1829, one philosopher, or I would say scientist, the Ouspensky has written a book, Tertium Organum. In that book, he has mentioned that there are two types of mathematics. One is lower mathematics and other is higher mathematics. What did he say? That he said the Western mathematics, Western method of logic is lower mathematics, whereas Indian method is higher mathematics. So, and he quoted the one Ishopanishad shloka, Purna Midaha, Purna Midam, Purnat, Purna Mudachite, Purnasya Purna Madaya, Purna Mevavashyasate. This is complete, that is complete. If you take complete out of complete, and complete is left, the whole is left. By which logic, by which mathematics you will understand? If you have 100 rupees, if you take 1 rupees out of that, there is no possibility that it would remain 100 rupees. But here, Ouspensky says Indian philosophy or Indian Upanishads gives a solution that mother has a love and she delivers complete love to child. Still the complete love or perfect love is there. So Indian knowledge system gives a solution. The problems are there in Western knowledge system or the approach of external. So basically that external, that reasoning here has a problem because reasoning has been made the master. Similarly, that consciousness is involved consciousness. Actually, we try to know anything external with the help of our consciousness only. But if consciousness and thinking process and thought process has been identified, then whatever we know, that would be colored consciousness. That would be through colored consciousness, because we are many times, most of the times we are in the grip of emotions, and at the level of reasoning also we have many presuppositions. With these presuppositions and these emotions, when we try to look at even external things, our knowledge will always be colored one. Our knowledge cannot be the pure one. The unattached knowledge will not be possible. It would be biased knowledge. So Indian philosophical system, Indian Upanishadic philosophy talks about meditative consciousness. Here, the substance of consciousness and substance of thought both are different. Consciousness is the master. Real knower is the consciousness, which is called the substance of consciousness, sometimes called soul. So that soul is the master, and emotions and reasoning both are instrument. In Indian philosophy, tarka, that reasoning is an instrument. So they talk about a stage, like for example, in Mandukya Upanishad, we have 4 stages of consciousness: Swapna, Susupti, Jagrat, and later Turiya. So as far as our external world is concerned, yes, Jagrat level, we try to know everything external. But that Jagrat consciousness, if it is colored, then definitely our knowledge would be colored one. Our knowledge will not be perfect one. So even at this Jagrat stage, Mandukya Upanishad says that there is a possibility of meditative consciousness, that you go beyond reasoning and go beyond emotions. So that Sakshi Bhav, that witness stage. So once you reach to that stage, there is a possibility that you can solve many modern day problems like psychological problems and other problems which can be solved. So what do we find? That modern day structure of knowledge has certain defects, and Upanishadic philosophy can provide certain solutions, modern day solutions about reasoning, about human consciousness. So that, meditation system, meditative consciousness means that witness stage. So we can solve many problems of human life if we observe different, Upanishadic philosophies. Who am I? Like, if I do not know what is my structure, who am I? Who is a human being? Taittiriya Upanishad gives a solution to that, that you have Panchakoshas, because a teacher asks his student that go then try to find that what is the substance or what is the core of life. And then initially he thinks that Annam Brahmam, and then finally, so Anna mein goes, Vigyan mein goes, Prana mein goes, Mano mein goes, and finally reaches to Ananda mein goes. But he says, go beyond that, Panchakoshati. Similarly, in Mundak Upanishad, generally we think that whatever we know, that is the real knowledge. But that knowledge cannot satisfy us completely, because we have different levels of satisfaction: biological satisfaction, material satisfaction, mental satisfaction, and spiritual satisfaction. So at most we can get mental satisfaction, but we cannot get spiritual satisfaction. What is the purpose of my life? What is, who am I? Because when everything is complete, when biological satisfaction is there, mental satisfaction is there, or material satisfaction is there, we would be reminded of these satisfactions which are spiritual. Then Mundak Upanishad says there are 2 types of knowledge: Paravidya and Aparavidya. That which is similar to modern physics, we find that, macro reality and micro reality. So modern physics also says the same thing, basically. And similarly, what should be our relationship towards others? Like, am I different from other people? Am I different from other human beings? Am I different from animals? Am I different from even plants and other natural things? Chandogya Upanishad gives a perfect solution to it. Okay, and Chandogya Upanishad says that there is no difference, a type of non-duality, Tattvamasi. So that Tattvamasi can be extended in making a perfect environmental philosophy. We have anthropocentric worldview, we have sentientism, we have a biocentric worldview, we have deep ecology. Deep ecology says we are all interconnected, but deep ecology does not say why is it so that we are interconnected. Chandogya Upanishad says that we are interconnected because we are non-dual consciousness. Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. And not only that, Schrödinger, in his book, My View of the World and What is Life, he says consciousness cannot be plural. So if consciousness is the reality, then plurality is not possible. So Chandogya Upanishad says if consciousness is the reality, then deep ecology will work. So deep ecology and Chandogya Upanishadic philosophy can come together. Similarly, among youngsters and modern men, we find there is a race for happiness, that we must acquire material things. We find a wonderful distinction of Shreyas and Preyas in Kathopanishad. So in Shreyas and Preyas, Kathopanishad is there, and then actually the dialogue is between Yama and Nachiketa. Yama tries to persuade Nachiketa or try to check by offering many things of prayers, material pleasures. Then Nachiketa realizes, no, whatever you are offering me, these are transitory. Tell me that question which I want to know. Then in that question, he gives real solution to human reasoning. He says that generally people are persuaded by these type of places, but you have got a philosophical reasoning. So I mean to say that basically Upanishads can offer a wonderful solution to modern day problems. Our youngsters are having many problems related to anxiety, depression, and other loneliness. How can we solve these problems? Modern day society is facing environmental problems. How can we solve these problems? So Chandogya Upanishad can provide environmental philosophy. Mandukya Upanishad can give us the real value of pure consciousness, a meditative consciousness. So through meditation, we can reach to the stage of peace. And through Chandogya Upanishadic philosophy, we can again regain the philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, Ayam Nijhaparo Viti Gadana Lagchetasam. There is a one minor Upanishad, Maha Upanishad. In that it is written, Ayam Nijhaparo Viti Gadana Lagchetasam, Udar Charita Nam tu Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. This is mine, this is yours. These calculations are being made by those people who are of narrow-minded. For great people, the whole world is like a family. But how can we realize the whole world is a family until and unless we know the substantial reason behind that, philosophical reason behind that. So Upanishadic philosophy gives us the reason, as we are all non-dual consciousness, so-called Brahma. Aham Brahmasmi, that non-dual consciousness. So we are all connected, and all connected, then obviously there is a possibility of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam in that sense only. So basically, deeper questions of life. What is happiness, real happiness? We can get a model from Kathopanishad. Who am I? We can get a model from Taittiriya Upanishad. What is life? What is real knowledge? We can get a glimpse from, or we can develop a model from Mundaka Upanishad. So these various Upanishads offer different solution to modern day problems. And we can, it's not something like, we can quote only shlokas and model is ready. We have to work upon these issues. We should prepare our students, our research scholars in this direction. As Professor Shastri ji was saying, and rightly he was saying that we must learn our thing in our language. That is the first thing. Okay, because Sanskrit and Hindi, Sanskrit and Tamil, they are very near to each other. But Sanskrit and English, it's very difficult to, because the problem of translation will come. So these things are very much important in our knowledge system. We must keep in mind that Upanishadic literature can give us many solutions to many problems. So with these words, I extend my thankfulness to all the panelists, Professor N.N. Bohra ji, Dr. Sudha ji, Professor Ranjana ji, Professor Shri K.N. Srivastava ji, and Professor Chambu Shastri ji, Dr. Charulata ji. Thank you very much.
Ma'am, you are mute.
Okay, just a second. Okay, I'm unmuted now. Thank you so much, Dr. Gupta, for sharing Upanishadic approaches to finding solutions and answers to the problems hitherto rarely addressed by other systems. And now we indeed had vibrant deliberations and discussions. And I think now it's the time to switch over to question and answer session. And I invite Dr. Charulata, Senior Scientist, CSIR-NISPER, to moderate this session. Over to you, Charuji.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Yeah, so yes, we have a few questions from the audience. So I'd like to take them up one by one, and I would request the speakers to provide suitable answers. So first question is, how you see the impact of traditional knowledge system in shaping of modern knowledge system, which emphasizes more on innovation and technology like AI, robotics, nanotechnology, quantum computing, etc., and going away from human-centered knowledge system, that is our traditional way, which categorically gives equal importance to other faculty like philosophy, art, music, culture, etc. So where is the fault line between traditional and modern system of knowledge, and what needs to be done to bridge this gap? So since the question is not like directly directed to any particular speaker, so I would request if anybody would like to comment.
So I would like to comment on this. See, all these new emerging technologies like AI, robotics, nanotechnology, we are not against that. They are also equally useful as much as the ancient Indian knowledge systems. We all talk about fusion of music. So why can't there be fusion of human face of the technology and the modern technology? I think they can wed together. We can easily amalgamate them together, make use of the traditional knowledge in the modern fields of knowledge like AI and ML. In fact, for computing, many people have been talking about how Sanskrit with its beautiful grammar is going to be useful for creating the machine systems which are going to be useful. Similarly, there can be applications of the ancient knowledge in the modern fields of knowledge. And therefore, we have to make use of both of them. There is no fault line. There is only meeting point. Now, that is what we have to emphasize on this.
Thank you very much, sir. Another question from one of the attendees is, this is directed to Dr. Sudha Gopalakrishnan, ma'am. So the comment is how oral and textual knowledge, madam has commented that how oral and textual knowledge systems talk to each other. So what are the best practices to follow while interpreting or translating any of those knowledge systems through modern communication formats?
Well, the thing is that I would like to say that these are not, I wouldn't even like to see them in opposition. I mean, they're part of the same knowledge core that we have, just that, you know, some people express in this way and some people express it, the same kind of observations, the same knowledge, or perhaps extensions or interpretations of that knowledge is what is being inscribed into text. So basically, what we have to see them as part of the same order of things, and then see them not in opposition but in complementarity and in comparative and in a framework of comparative analysis. I think that's the best way to approach it, in my understanding.
Thank you, ma'am. And another question, I think related question, is what are the challenges in structuring the knowledge from unstructured systems? For example, knowledge from a tribal community. So what are the challenges in structuring the knowledge from such communities?
Is it to me or maybe to somebody from CSIR? Or
it's not directed to anyone, but if anybody would like to comment on this. What are the challenges in structuring the knowledge from unstructured systems? For example, knowledge from a tribal community.
I think there is certainly a challenge in understanding, first in terms of what Chamuji said about the language itself. You know, they have their own terminology, usage, which we do not understand. And therefore, we have to mingle with them, we have to live with them, we have to understand them, we have to record all of that. And then the formal way of structuring has to be done later. Now, first thing is, we should not miss on that, we should not lose that. And that is why recording of all of that is the first step which we have to do. And then how do we make it structured? How do you write it in different, our भारतीय भाषाओं में कैसे लिखा जाएगा, उसको कैसे लोगों के सामने पेश किया जाएगा, ये बाद में की बात है. पहले ये जिस जनरेशन में आज है वो नेक्स्ट जनरेशन में शायद रहे नहीं रहे, यही हमारी चिंता है. तो उसको हमको साथ में जोड़ने का पहला काम है. उसके बाद स्ट्रक्चरल एक्टिविटी एटसेट्रा विल गो ऑन.
Yes, definitely. So in this line, another question, maybe like a couple of questions which are related. And it's directed to you, sir. Like how to attract new generation or maybe inspire young generation to take up research in IKS, in the knowledge systems.
Very recently, just about a week ago, we have announced internship opportunities for young students to go to the experts who are there in the 60s, 70s, and 80s and have rich knowledge of all the ancient systems and about 3-4 students can go there, like in the form of a Guru Shishya Parampara. The vacation can be spent there, a full semester can be spent there with credits and including a stipend for the internship. And those who get interested will naturally go on continuing research in those areas. We don't have to force anyone. Once you know the value, the strength, the importance of all of that, students will automatically start gravitating to do research in such areas.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Yeah, so one question is, India has an extensive collection of ancient manuscripts. There are many efforts to preserve these manuscripts, and we know that a lot of our ancient scriptures and texts are available in different languages also. So are there a lot of like more manuscripts left to be translated, or like where we are positioned to make available ancient manuscript materials in popular languages for the public? And still more manuscripts are available for translation, left for translation.
If I may take that question, yes, we very conservatively, we are estimating that there are 5 million, that is 50 lakh manuscripts in the country, much more, though this it's a very, very modest estimation. But having said that, very few, whatever has been documented or deemed to be documented through the National Manuscript Mission are about 27 lakhs as of now. And many repositories and many regions are yet to be covered. And we see that whenever we go to a place, any ancestral house, any temple, any monastery, there are manuscripts. So let alone translating, even documenting what we have, there are huge gaps still to be covered. Translating, I would say, for example, this person called Professor K.V. Sharma, who has done a lot of work on Indian manuscripts, has said that coming to the scientific systems of India, only 7% of whatever manuscripts in the scientific systems of India have been reckoned with, have been documented. The rest of them we don't know. We don't know where they are, how they are, what they contain. Translation is the third level. Now we have to decipher these manuscripts because they are in different scripts, in different languages, what Shastriji was talking about. So the challenge is to learn the scripts, to understand them, then translate into whichever language that is. So it is an effort that I think needs to stretch to generations. So yes, absolutely.
Thank you, ma'am. Another question, this is directed to Professor Krishna Shastriji. What needs to be done in order to integrate ancient scientific knowledge in Sanskrit, for example, mathematical models in Bij Ganitam, Leelavati, into mainstream schooling?
Sir, you are muted. Sir, you are muted. Please unmute yourself.
Till now, people are talking about what is Indian knowledge system and what is there in the Indian knowledge systems. How is more important or equally important with the what? And the application of that knowledge is also equally important. So now we have to work on how and its application part of it. So Sanskrit knowledge system, actually, there, as I said earlier, they are not completely decoded. Retrieval part is more important. There are 17 Sanskrit universities where around 2,000 professors are working, and in general universities and colleges and schools, there are 5 lakh Sanskrit teachers and professors. Now we have started approaching them to work with sit with some modern stream scholar also, so that there will be some multidisciplinary research. So this is the way to go ahead, and also offering Sanskrit to modern stream students and professors. So it should work both way. Sanskrit scholars should know modern subjects or sit with the modern scholars, and modern scholars should also study one or Sanskrit or one or the other Indian language. They should be just knowing the language is different, but understanding the text, its meaning, hidden meaning is more important.
Thank you very much, sir. So I think now there are no more questions left with us. So now, like, we are heading towards the close of this program. So I have the great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks as well in this today's program on Indian knowledge systems. So first and foremost, I'd like to thank Padma Vibhushan Shri N.N. Bohra ji, President India International Center and Chair of today's program, for taking time out and gracing the occasion, and also for delivering the presidential address, which I'm sure has immensely benefited the audience. I'd like to thank Shri Ken Srivastava, Director, India International Center, for his valuable remarks and comments on Indian knowledge systems. My heartfelt thanks to Professor Ranjana Agarwal, Director, CSIR-NISPER, for her stewardship as well as able and continued support in organizing this IISc-NISPER joint program on Indian knowledge systems. So very thank you, ma'am. My sincere gratitude and thanks to all the speakers who have taken out their time for delivering such engaging and enlightening and wonderful talks. So Professor Anil Sahasrabuddhe, Chairman AICTE, has delivered a very insightful talk on Indian knowledge systems and its relevance, especially the Indian way of education and philosophy, metallurgy, marvels, mathematics, water resources, holistic health, agriculture. So almost every aspect he had covered, and it was really, really insightful talk, sir. Thank you very much. My sincere thanks to Dr. Shraddha Gopalakrishnan, ma'am, Executive Director, International Research Division, India International Center, on a wonderful talk on the concepts, practices, and transformation of Indian knowledge systems. So that was really enriching yet interesting, and of course, taking the questions of the audience also. So that was really nice. Then my heartfelt thanks to Padma Shri Chammu Krishna Sastri ji, member, Mission High Level Committee of Indian Knowledge Systems and Chairman High Level Committee for Promotion of Indian Languages, and his talk on Indian knowledge systems and Indian languages, especially the relevance of Sanskrit and other languages of India in protecting and perpetuating Indian knowledge systems. So that was really insightful. My heartfelt thanks to you, sir. My deep sense of acknowledgement and appreciation to Dr. Aditya Kumar Gupta, Faculty, Department of Philosophy, Delhi University, for his talk on deeper questions of life and Upanishadic approach. So that was also very insightful, and it delved deeper into the like philosophical aspects of life. So this was all about the speakers, about the wonderful talks. And then, of course, my sincere gratitude and thanks to Dr. Usha Munshi ma'am and Dr. G. Mahesh for like coming together and fostering this collaboration and organizing this program. And of course, giving this me the opportunity to be a part of this program. So thank you very much to both of you. I would like to thank all the delegates, all the attendees who have been joined this program and have been with us during the entire program. So heartfelt thanks to all the attendees also. Again, last but not the least, my deepest gratitude and thanks to the entire IISc and NISPER team for making this program a success, and special thanks to the IT team and the support staff. Thank you once again. And so with all the inspirations taken from today's talks, the session actually now comes to an end. And I thank you all once again for being with us for all the way. And if I have missed anyone, it must be like unintentional. So please forgive me for that. Yeah. Thank you once again. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Arun. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.